For this beautiful and classy Ava dress, the materials you will need are 2 to 3 yards of fabric, matching thread, scissors, a tape measure, pins or weights, and chalk. Now that you've got the materials, let's get to sewing. I will be working with a half-scale pattern so that everything I'm doing will be visible on camera. I'm using the cutting option A. It has no seam at the center front or back. It is easier and faster to do, and you can cut the front and back all in one step. So, let's start. Fold your fabric in half lengthwise, and then fold it again widthwise so that you end up with 4 layers. Place your pattern on your fabric along the folded edge. Since we don't have a seam on the shoulder, we don't need the seam allowance. And to get rid of the seam allowance on the pattern, I just folded it, but you can also cut it. Line up your pattern with your fabric, hold it in place with pins or weights, and trace the pattern. We'll start with the back neckline. Cut the neckline through all 4 layers. Then, for the front, we need to make the neckline deeper. So trace the deep V neckline from the pattern onto the fabric. Cut out your dress and make sure you make notches or little slits at the hemline, hip line, and waistline. Then cut the V neckline on the upper folded layer. Also, cut your belt, 4 inches wide by 60 inches long. This is the process for checking your pattern. First, we will take our measurements. The 3 most important measurements for this pattern are bust, waist, and hips. The measurements that we took were bust 36 inches, waist 28 inches, and hips 38 inches. We will also fill in the quarter column in this form. So that will be 9 inches, 7 inches, and 9.5. Now we will check with our sizing table. Since our bust is a 36, waist 28, and hips 38, our size is an M. If you are in between sizes, I recommend going down instead of up since we are using stretchy knit fabric. However, this does depend on how form-fitting you would like your dress to be. Since the top of the dress is loose, we don't need to check our bust measurement as much as we need to check our waist and hip measurements. As you can see here, the pattern is a bit bigger than our 7-inch waist. So what I will do is I will add ½ inch to the seam allowance, and then I will shorten the waist to that point with a curved line. Checking our hip measurement, everything is just right. Now we'll cut off the excess of the pattern, and we're done. We are at the final part of our dress. Let's start sewing. We'll start with the side seams. Place the fabric right sides together, making sure to line up your notches or slits, and sew. Repeat for the other side. Then serge. Serge your hem, sleeve edges, and neckline. Hide your thread inside your seam. Mark your center front, center back, and side seams of the neckline. We will start folding the serged edge at these points first. Then, fold between these marks and pin. You can base stitch the neckline after pinning and then iron before sewing. Sew on the right side of your fabric in the middle of your serged seam. Our neckline is a little bit stretched out, and that's okay. It's time to press it. Make sure to use a pressing cloth and press instead of ironing. Don't forget to cool it with your hand or a clapper. After pressing, it will flatten. Now it's time for the sleeves. I folded the serged edge 5/8 of an inch and pressed it. Then I sewed on the right side of the fabric 1/2 inch from the edge. For the hem, you can finish it like we did the neckline, or like we did the sleeves, or you can hand stitch it. I like to have a thick hem at the bottom because it holds its shape better. For this, I will hand stitch it. I folded the hem edge 1.5 inches and pinned it and pressed it. Starting at the side seam, I stitched around the bottom, taking one thread from one side and a couple of threads from the other side. This will make sure my stitches are not visible on the right side of the fabric. Here is how it looks. When I reach the end, I like to stretch my fabric so that my thread will take the shape of the dress and be loose. This will make the dress easy to wear and make sure my seam will not pop. For the belt, I marked the wrong side of the fabric. Fold the belt lengthwise, right sides together. Start pinning it from the center of the belt outwards. Start sewing from the middle to one side. Leave a space of 2 inches and sew the other side of the belt. The belt may become a little stretched out, but after we press, it'll come back. Flip inside out. Here I'm using a kebab stick to help me along. Use a needle to take out the corners. Press and hand stitch your hole. And we are done with our beautiful dress.